Hi YouTube, welcome back to another video from Wtf Rc Cars. So, I've seen a lot of things kicking about in the groups about the MB4 Plus, MB4 and Noble Pro, and people seem to be having issues with the INR4 GYB. So, I've got one set up in a car and I've got all three transmitters. I'm going to run through, connect them to it, see if we can find a problem with it. Seems to be specifically they can't get calibration to run. So we've got the receiver sat straight in between a high powered servo, the motor fan, a motor, and the gyro sat in the middle of it. So at first I'm going to try it, see if it'll connect and calibrate to all three of these transmitters. For the video I'll unplug the fans just so it's not making a right racket. If that works, I'll then try plugging the fan in and see if that makes any difference to it. But yeah, let's see if we can find this issue and see what causes it. So first off, we've got the MB4. I've set a model memory up for it. So we'll go into menu, enhanced, start bind. If I can remember what buttons are, I'll press and hold the bind button, and I think we've got a power button here somewhere.
Binding successful.
So we're now bound. So if we go into, no, not that one. In fact, that might have been the right one. So if we go into here, first off it's going to ask us to calibrate, and it seems like this is where people are having issues. So we'll click calibrate.
Calibration successful.
We get calibrate successful. And you can see the gyro's working as it should. If we disable it, yep, that's working. So you can assign it to a button. Yeah, we got it assigned. So if we just press button on side, we've got no gyro or gyro, and the calibration went through perfectly fine. So if we go back into it,
Calibration successful.
so definitely works fine with the MB4. So we'll power off again.
Signal lost. Shutting down.
So it does work with MB4. We've got a model memory set up for the Noble Pro. So we'll put it into bind mode. Press and hold the bind button. Power up.
Binding successful.
So we've got a steering set up. If we go into SVC, it'll ask us to calibrate.
Successful.
And it's calibrated successfully. We got a working gyro, and then it's off. Why is that set to turn? That's better. So one press on, one press off. So gyro off, gyro on. And if we go into SVC menu, click calibrate.
Calibration successful.
So not getting any problems with the Pro. So let's try the MB4 Plus. I'm just wondering if it's an issue with the Plus, with it being a new transmitter.
Binding successful.
So we've got a steering, we've got a gyro. if we go into SVC, when I remember where I put it on this one, it'll ask us to calibrate.
Calibration successful.
So it calibrates, and we got gyro off, gyro on. So that's working fine. So next thing to try, let's see if it's an issue when it's updated, if we force update. So if we go into the RX menu and we go to update receiver, right, so what we need to do now is power off, power on keeping the button held down, and then you'll get fast flashing light.
Signal lost.
If I keep my finger on it. So you should get a fast flashing light, and if you just keep it held down, eventually we should see the pattern change. So now it's changed to a slow flashing light, 3 flashes and then a pause. So if we go to update receiver, INR4 GYB, it looks like it's taking the update. So we're now fully updated, and it looks like it was on the latest version anyway. You can tell if you don't have to rebind. So gyro on, gyro off. So let's find SVC again and then calibrate. So we've updated the firmware, try and calibrate.
Calibration successful.
So it calibrates absolutely fine. So let's try and power cycle, see if we get an issue then.
Signal lost. Shutting down. Welcome to Noble Plus.
So we're now back on. We got gyro off, gyro on, SVC menu, gyro calibrate.
Calibration successful.
So it's calibrating fine, but I was kind of hoping that we could force an issue. So let's turn it off.
Shutting down.
Let's turn off the Pro. Let's go back to the MB4.
Welcome to Noble.
So let's try and force update the firmware from an MB4 and see if that'll give us the problem. So again, powering on with the button constantly held down on receiver. And we got fast flashing. And then now we've changed to 3 flashes. So if we go into there, into menu, update receiver, INR4, update. And again, it's updating receiver. You see the light start flashing in different patterns. So it's fully updated. If we go to bind,
Binding.
and then we just power off, hold the bind button, power back up.
Binding successful.
And if you notice, I didn't have it bound first. You don't need to have a receiver bound to be able to update it. So we've got gyro on, gyro off, SVC, ask us to calibrate.
Calibration successful.
So, definitely doesn't have an issue updating off the MB4.
Signal lost.
So, let's power
Signal
the
lost.
MB4
Shutting
down.
Welcome to Noble.
Let's try the Pro. Just stop my MB4 charging. So, if we go to update receiver, INR4, press and hold as power button, as bind button, sorry. Not sure if you'll see the flashing pattern. But that's now in update mode. So, we'll update as receiver. So we're fully updated. Bind set enhanced. Power it off. Quick press at bind button and power it back on. So we're now bound back up. Got working steering, no gyro. Press button, gyro. If we go back to SVC, it'll ask us to calibrate. So again, calibration's working. Now let's see if we can cause some interference around it and cause it that way. So we've got a really high powered cooling fan. So let's power cycle it. So let's go into SVC menu, go to calibration. And again, calibration successful. So, definitely not caused by a powerful cooling fan. The only thing I can think is, let's say it was in at a really weird angle.
Calibration successful.
Nope. So that calibrated. What about if we've got it fixed on its side?
Calibration successful.
No, this gyro just doesn't seem to care which way round you have it. It still works. Now, it shouldn't be able to calibrate if we're constantly moving it, so now it's taking longer to calibrate.
Successful.
And as soon as it stopped moving, it still calibrates. So we've tried calibration from all three of these transmitters. We've tried updating firmware from all three of these transmitters. I've even had all three of these transmitters on while we've been doing it at various times. High powered fan sat right outside of it, and it's sat in between a powerful servo. So I'm at a bit of a loss as to what is actually causing the issue that people are having where it won't calibrate. The only thing I'm wondering is there some kind of issue with the power feed to them? But I'm sure these receivers can run from quite low voltage. Yeah, 3.5 to 9 volt. And it's a bit of an oddball ESC that I'm running on here as well. It's one of Rudog's, so it's not like it will only work with sort of hobby wing ESCs or anything like that. I mean, we can take the ESC out of the equation altogether. So if I disconnect, I think that's my servo and the ESC. Let's power it off a battery. Get that plugged in. So this is powering off a battery and no ESC or anything.
Calibration successful.
Yep, still works.
Signal lost.
It's definitely a strange one, this, because I
Signal lost.
honestly cannot tell you why people are having issues with these. But yeah, that is pretty much every different mix of thing I can throw at this INR4 GYB, and I cannot get it not to calibrate. So in summary, we've updated the firmware off of each one of these transmitters, we've bound it to each one of these transmitters, we've calibrated it off of each one after the firmware update, before the firmware update. To the best of my knowledge, there's only one firmware for the INR4 GYB, and I've even tried putting the high-powered fan on, and I can't even get it to say calibration failed. Even when I'm moving it around, it just waits till I stop moving it and then it calibrates and finishes. So yeah, a bit inconclusive, this one. Certainly one that I'd like to get to the bottom of, but at the minute there doesn't seem to be any way I can get this to fail to calibrate. We do have another INR4 GYB, and that is a much newer one that's only been sent to me recently. So let's dig that out and see if I can get that one to calibration fail. So for this one, I've never had it set up on this controller before, so if we go to model select, we'll change to this model. What's this car? It's a D2 Evo. Channel number definition, that's right, it's 4. Radio frequency 2-way. So we'll come off that. Bind set enhanced. Then if I press and hold the bind button, power it on. Versus steering, so that's the right way. If we go into SVC, it's going to ask us to calibrate. And again, calibration successful. So set it to a switch. So we've got gyro on, gyro off. Gyro on. I think that wants reversing. So we can go in SVC and reverse it. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, let's see if we can quieten this down a minute. So yeah, it fully calibrates, and that's one of the latest ones that I've been sent. Yeah, I'm a bit of a loss with this. I cannot get it to do calibration failed. So yeah, leave a comment below. I've shown you how to update them, how to bind them, how to go into the actual memory, so your configuration. This is same on all of them. You can basically set your SVC to a button. So yeah, you can go into menus and you can pick a dial or a button, and then you can go in and you've got a whole bunch of other options for the SVC, so you don't have to go into SVC menu. So you've got your steering gains and everything, priority, all these settings. So if you have it on normal, you can go in and you can set the actual settings, so you can have it on a dial. And I believe if we choose a button, so let's go to that, and then you should have a few other settings for SVC, so you can turn it on and off with that, which is what I assigned to one of them buttons. Or you've got your car type for your menus that you can change between. So yeah, extremely configurable, but unfortunately I cannot tell you why people are getting calibration failed. Maybe they've got a really strong magnet near it, or a cheap servo that's not shielded that's causing it. I mean, the easy way to test it would be take it out the RC, just power it up off a battery, any 2S battery, and connect to it and see if it'll calibrate. But yeah, leave comments below if you're having an issue with it. I don't see why. That's two different ones. They all update. I'm at a bit of a loss that's causing it. But let's wrap this one up. So there you have it. Two different INR4 GYBs. One was the very first one that Flysky sent me out, so before they were released. And one is a very recent one that I've had. Updated off of all the transmitters, so MB4, MB4 Plus, MB4 Pro, and calibration works with all of them in two different types of RC with cooling fans right outside of them. This one's got the smoothing capacitors right outside of it, and the ESC. Two different ESCs, so a Rudog and a Hobbywing XR10 Pro Elite. So I'm a bit of a loss. I can't seem to replicate the calibration failed. Even rocking the car around didn't phase it. It just refused to calibrate till the car was stood. So yeah, I don't think the orientation of it's making any difference. But yeah, it's definitely a strange one. But thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.